Welcome to session one. I know it's early, so I did not expect a huge turnout, but I know they're going to catch the recording. So I'm just going to go ahead and pray before I hand it over to ShaKeisha. So, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for those who are gathered here today. I thank you for the information that we're going to receive from you, dear God, from your heart straight to Chiquisha and onto us, dear Lord. I thank you for this time of fellowship, for communion, for being able to ask questions and being able to glean from others who have gone before us. I pray, dear God, that every single word that she speaks will be seasoned with truth, that you will bless her richly in every single area of her life, that you will anoint her marriage to be purposeful, that you will anoint her children, dear God, that they will rise up and call her blessed because she is blessed in all things, dear God. And we give you thanks in all things. May we glorify you during this time and throughout our day. Amen. So we're talking respect. Turns out I had labeled all of the topics that I wanted to talk about for the year last year. And I did a bit of reordering to change the disaster preparation a little bit earlier. And this got moved to August. But I feel like it is so good that it's August because what better time than to talk about relationships, to talk about respect. We're kind of done with the worst of the pandemic in terms of our fears and anxiety towards it. And now we can focus on the relationships around us. And so no matter if you're single, no matter if you're in a marriage, no matter if you're dating, or like I said, entangled, it's good to understand how to respect and how to cultivate this attitude of respect, because you can practice it on your parents, on your siblings, on your coworkers, on your employees. And when you practice it, you build up the muscle. And so when you get into your relationship, you know how to treat this gift from God, even though it may not always feel like a gift from God. You know how to treat this gift from God that God has given you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, ShaKeisha, so you can introduce yourself and, let us know what it is that you have for us today.
All right, good morning, ladies. As I would have told you, I'm ShaKeisha Johnson, and I am a life and relationship coach by profession. But this morning, what I want to talk to us about is understanding the role of respect in our relationships. And so we're going to do this in three parts. I took it exactly the way that Zemi told me she wanted it laid out. I wanted to be adherent to that. And so that's what I did. And so the first thing I want us to do is to define what respect is. And the two definitions that I have for you this morning are: one, a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. And the second, due regard for the feelings, wishes, or rights of others. I feel like a lot of times, we're very comfortable with the first meaning of respect. It's easy for us to honor someone with abilities and qualities that we admire. But what happens when, that person who we once admired for their abilities and qualities, what happens when they're not performing up to par? What happens when they're not behaving in a way that we feel elicits our respect? Then we need to still take due regard for the feelings, wishes, and rights of others, which includes respecting and honoring their time, their resources, their energy, and even their boundaries and the things that they've set in place to protect who they are and to put in a place and a level of autonomy. And this is true in every relationship. From children up until marriage, and like Zemi said, your coworkers, your family, your friends. The level of respect that we have for people in general usually mirrors itself in our personal relationships. The way that we regard God is usually a good indicator of our level of honor, our level of reverence, our level of humility in relationships. So the way that we interact with God is usually the very first place where we learn what honor looks like. That's the place where we learn, what it means to truly honor, to submit, and to lay down our will for what we know to be right, and to lay down our opinions for what we know to be truth. Those things are really important. So This morning, the biblical reference that I chose was 1 Peter 3, 1-9. And I chose Peter because he was married and he would travel with his wife. And you can find that information in Galatians. I'm sorry, Corinthians. So this is what Peter has to say in the book of Peter. In the same way, you wives, be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, that they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives, as they observe your chaste and respectful behavior. Your adornment must not be merely external, braiding the hair and wearing gold jewelry or putting on dresses, but let it be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is precious in the sight of God. For in this way, in former times, the holy women also who hoped in God used to adorn themselves, being submissive to their own husbands, just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. And you have become her children if you do what is right without being frightened by fear. Your husbands in the same way. You husbands in the same way live with your wives in an understanding way, as with someone weaker, since she is a woman, and show her honor as a fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. To sum up, all of you be harmonious, sympathetic, brotherly, kind-hearted, and humble in the spirit, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead, for you are called for the very purpose that you might inherit a blessing. A lot of times you give a whole lot of attention to the very first part of First Peter, or any verse that is like this. You can also find this in other books of the Bible or a similar passage. And we pay attention to those parts because we usually want to prove a point. My point is that you as a wife need to be submissive. And so I'm going to read that portion of scripture. Or my point is that you as a husband, you need to honor me and you need to treat me this way and you need to love me this way. But I think it's important for us to recognize what the sum total of these statements are really trying to achieve. Peter's point is not all about what you as a husband or you as a wife should do. The point and, the end result of this ought to be a mutual level of harmony, of mutual sympathy, of both of you being kind and humble toward one another, because that's what brings God glory. If we are in any way loving in ways that are selfish, loving in ways that go against, who God is and his nature, then we're not going to be able to give him glory. If we begin to respond from a place of, wanting things done the way that we want them done and disregarding the feelings, the intentions, and the heart of someone else, then we've done a disservice to the relationship, whatever relationship it may be. But in respect to husbands, I think one of the things, or one of the ways that we have been taught, and, even up until a while ago, it's something that I believe, that it's just true straight across the board, that men need respect and women need love. And that it was just this clear line. And as long as a woman is being loved, that she's good. And as long as a man is being respected, he's fine. But I think the one thing we miss is that respect it's an integral part of love. You're not going to disrespect someone that you care for. You're not going to disrespect, belittle, or, treat someone poorly that you claim to love. If you don't respect me, then it's an indicator that your reverence for me is not rooted in true love. It's not rooted in a place that I can trust. If you don't respect me, how can I trust your love for me? And so I don't believe it's something that's solely reserved for husbands, but I think that we have to be cognizant of the way that we express our love for our husbands in a way that shows them respect, and not just respect for their role as a husband, respect for who they are. And that comes in knowing and really honoring your husband as a person. It goes beyond, I respect and I honor my husband in the ways that I've been taught, in the ways that I've learned to do it in either church circles or teachings or other things of that nature. I read one of the studies, the it was on Psychology Today. You can go and read it if you want. And in the study, she was breaking apart the book that, really focuses on men being the recipients of respect and women being the recipients of love or care or tenderness. And she did a poll with women who were, CEOs and affluent and all of that stuff. And she gave them the same choice. Would you choose respect or love? And a great deal of those women also wanted respect. They chose respect over feelings of love or feelings of appreciation because they wanted to be respected. They wanted to be heard. And I can speak for myself. I do value being heard. So in any relationship, it's important to note what makes the person that you're in relationship with feel loved, what makes them feel respected, what makes them feel honored. There is no magic formula to it. You have to be open to what that person needs, and you have to be open to meeting their needs in a way that is not seeking to validate some need in yourself. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. All right. So if you guys have questions or if you have comments, please leave them in the chat so that I can address them for you. But let me know if you guys are with me so far.
I'll say one thing. I know commonly, like even with my math background, we deal with a lot of if-then statements. So a lot of people think if he does this, then I do this. So we make respect conditional. So if he, whatever I need from him, then I respect him. If he's not worthy of respect, I'm not going to respect him. And I think that's where a lot of marriages are in trouble because we put a condition on it when God never put conditions on it. He never said, if he's doing everything he's supposed to do, respect him. It's respect him anyway. And I feel like even in my own marriage, I've seen my husband thrive the most when I just give him that room to make mistakes, to be able to fall short in certain aspects, and then he can grow in that environment. Versus if I made it conditional, he would shrink and he wouldn't seek to grow. And I feel like, that's just a key thing for me. And I think that's a part of why I wanted to, have this discussion, because I want to take the conditions off respect. And like even talk about like how women get there. Is it our upbringing? What causes us to put so many conditions on respect?
I think in a lot of ways, it's not only conditional, it's cultural. So yeah, I would say it's our upbringing. And then for a lot of us who grew up in churches and religious sectors, even though it was not outrightly expressed, even our love is conditional. The way that we love people, the way that we treat people, the way that we honor people, it's conditional. We may hear preachings and other things of that nature that tell us to love unconditionally. But a lot of us, when we witness these things in practice, that's not what we saw. And so we're a lot more likely to mimic what we see than we are to mimic what we hear or to mimic, what's being taught to us. We're gonna act out what we see. And so when we put conditions on any form of what I call a basic human needs, when we put conditions on those things, then we run the risk of really withholding them when we feel cheated. We withhold them when we feel like we're not getting what we ought to get. And so I think that's why that happens so much in marriages, because it's like, well, you shouldn't have my respect if you're not giving me what I need. You shouldn't have this. This is not yours. But truth be told, when we go into a relationship, we do so for the benefit of the person that we're going into a relationship with. And if both spouses have that mindset that they are aiming to please their spouse, then nobody gets cheated, nobody gets lost, nobody gets left behind. But the problem is that we go into relationships to fulfill voids in ourselves. We go into relationships to fill needs in ourselves, not really understanding or sometimes even acknowledging who we're getting into a relationship with. Sometimes we want a husband, but we don't want the man that we're married to. And that is something that I think has caused so so much turmoil, and we see the divorce rate so high because a lot of people, when they get to that point, it's like, I don't even know this person. But did you ever? Did you ever really stop and talk to them? Did you ever really hear their heart on certain matters? Did you have discussions about their upbringing, about the way that they view things? Did you have the hard conversations, or did you think that you could just gloss over them and live in la la land? But I think it's important to note your partner's understanding of what respect is, and their understanding of what love looks like, because for every person that's different. The same way that we have different love languages, we have different things that make us feel honored, we have different things that make us feel appreciated. And you may feel or believe that you're respecting someone, or you may feel or believe that you're appreciating them or showing them love, but because that's not their love language, or that's not something that speaks to them personally, they can either miss or overlook that. And then you feel cheated, because it's like, I'm doing this and I'm trying and I'm doing my best, but it needs to be personalized. Your respect even needs to be personalized. Your respect needs to be presented in a way that makes the recipient feel honored, and not in a way that makes you feel better about yourself. So in the way that you see your husband thriving, when you respect him, when you give him honor, when you give him, just because you're giving him something that makes him feel good. It makes him feel whole. It makes him feel appreciated. It makes him feel loved. And we all thrive when we feel loved. Every person thrives when they feel loved. Even when they do studies with cancer patients who have family around, who are encouraging them and, cheering them on and saying, you can beat this, the recovery time is exponentially better. It's because we thrive in conditions of love, of acceptance, of honor. And when we withhold that from a person, we think we're withholding something that they have to earn, but we're withholding what is inherently a basic human need. We all need to feel as if we matter, as if we're important, as if we bring value to the world. And when we're deprived of that, a lot of times we begin to continue down that path of behaving like we're not worth anything, because that's what I've been told. I've now been conditioned to see myself as unworthy. I've now been conditioned to see myself of little value. And so let me continue to behave in this fashion. And so it's a really vicious cycle, because chances are, if you disrespect your husband every time he does something that you don't like, or every time he's not performing up to the standard that you have in your mind, then chances are he never will. Not if you continue to belittle him or make him feel small, but see what a little encouragement can do. And when I say encouragement, I want to temper that with not being disingenuous in your encouragement either. Find things that you genuinely like about your spouse and celebrate those things. It's just one of my points. So I'm going to give practical ways to respect your husband, and a lot of these are kind of universal. The very first thing, view him as a person with a myriad of feelings, thoughts, and emotions. Generalizations do much to divide us, but very little to actually help us understand one another. That goes back to me saying that the ways that we express our respect and our admiration need to be personalized, because they do. Something that makes Demi feel loved may not necessarily make me feel the same way. It may not elicit the same emotion, the same excitement, the same feelings of love and adoration that it would in you, because we're two entirely different people. We have different things that motivate us. And so it's important to know what motivates your husband, what makes him feel excited. And you can do that just by practicing. You can practice doing things, and you can see what things he responds to, and do more of the things that get him excited. And also you can ask questions. Okay, so be intentional about celebrating him in ways that makes him feel loved, as opposed to celebrating him in ways that you desire to be celebrated. So Karel, I think that one you wanted more information on. And so what I mean by that is, a lot of times when we have a love language, albeit for me, one of mine is affirmation. So early in my marriage, I really gave my husband a lot of affirmations because that makes me feel loved. So it must make you feel loved too. Like, this is what people need. People need a whole lot of affirmation. And he wouldn't respond to it the same way as, when I would do something for him, and I was like, you don't like this, like, this doesn't, he's like, I mean, I like it, but it means more to me when you do, like, when you serve me a particular way, or you do those special things that you usually do. And I was like, oh, so now I calmed down on the affirmations. They're still a need, but they're not as important to him as they were in my mind, because there's something that I desired. And so a lot of times we mirror our desires for things onto other people. And a lot of times it's done from a place of expecting that, okay, if I do this for you, then you'll do it for me. And if you need a need met, especially in marriage, in any relationship, just say so. Just let the person know, listen, it makes me feel loved when you do this. It makes me feel appreciated when you verbally express that. Just be honest about what it is that you need, so that you can stop holding someone to an invisible standard, and it's a standard or an expectation that they don't know exists. So begin to verbalize what you need in relationships, so that they have an opportunity to actually meet that need for you, as opposed to suppressing it and expecting for your mind to be read. Because that was me. I felt like you should just know. You should just know what I need. You should just know how to love me. And people don't. So honor the man he is, as you declare in intercession the man that he was born to be. There are going to be seasons where, we all go through seasons of discouragement. We all go through seasons where, it's hard for us to accept or to walk in God's plans and purposes for our lives. Sometimes a lot of the things that God shows us, they're scary. Okay. And you're like, God, how can I be this? And how can I even begin to achieve or to get to this place that you've called me to? It seems impossible. We have to be aware that it's very possible that your husband has those exact same feelings. Emotions are not feminine. Everybody has them. Everybody has emotions and insecurities and fears and things that need to be addressed. So take your concerns into intercession, channel them to heaven, so that God in turn is able to change his heart and to motivate him and to begin to show him and to begin to put the things in place in his life that he needs to be all that God has called him to be. You don't stop encouraging. You don't stop reminding him of who he is. But you will stop nagging once you understand that God is the one that, he needs the encounter with, and not necessarily you. All right. So my next point is, be as gracious with your wisdom as you are with your encouragement. In lieu of vain flattery, really assess what you love about your spouse and highlight those things as often as you can. So as women, in the book of Proverbs, wisdom is always feminine. She's a woman. And I believe that as women, God gave us the grace of wisdom that was meant to be used in our relationships. It is not isolated and only to be used when we're producing something, but it's also to be used when we're relating to other people. So the wisdom that God gave you, Zemi, to be able to figure out formulas and, do all these charts and all of the other things that you do in terms of finance, God also gave you wisdom to be able to practically apply to your relationship, to your marriage, to realize and to assess what's working, what's not working. Now, how do I adjust? And it's okay to make adjustments in the way that you relate to your spouse. It's okay to make adjustments to how you respond to them in certain areas. Adjustments are not just welcome, they're going to be necessary as time goes on. Excuse me. Especially because a lot of times our needs change as we grow as people. Our needs are going to change. The things that make us feel loved are going to change. My love language changes every single year. I don't know what's happening, but every single year it's different every time we take the quiz. So be aware of your spouse, know them, take the time, take the interest in knowing who they are and seeing how they're growing, how they're changing. Take an interest in the things that interest them. Whatever gets them excited, find a way. You don't have to, if he plays a video game to relax his mind and ease his mind, you don't need to sit there and try to play the game along with him. That may be his time of solace, but take an interest or get him a new game or do something kind in that area to show that, okay, this is important to you, or, this makes you feel happy or whatever it does. And I want to honor that. I want to honor the things that you love. I want to honor the things that make you feel excited, the things that make you come alive. My next point, constructive criticism is okay as long as it is with the desire to build a better marriage and takes into account who your husband is and how he responds to criticism. None of us likes hearing what we're doing wrong or what we're not doing well. Nobody. I do work on taking criticism well and learning how to be a good steward of that criticism so that I can use it to improve in the areas that are important to me. But I can tell you, it is not easy at any point in life to hear, listen, you're not doing this well, or I would like you to do this better. So keep that in mind as you share your criticism, because you may need to temper it or use the sandwich method where, okay, listen, I love that you do this for me. I would like, however, if you would do this a lot more because this makes me feel loved.
And on that point, that is something that is so key in the workplace because especially like I just started a new job, right? And working with different personalities. And when someone says to you, that's bad or that's wrong, versus when someone
Yeah.
says, I really like how you did this, but could you change this? My attitude, my outlook is totally different with both options. So for one, I might want to strive to do better. The other one, I may shut down.
Yeah.
And so even like at work, we can practice that. And then, like you said, incorporate that into your marriage. And with anybody, you can practice, like you said, the sandwich method, practice that art of giving feedback because throughout your marriage, especially year one, you're given a lot of feedback.
Especially year one. You are literally trying to figure out how to share your entire life with another human being. This person is from a different background. They have a different family life that they came from. They have different trauma than you. They have different insecurities than you. They have different shortcomings than you. Areas where they struggle, to you, you may be like, okay. And for a lot of women, that's it. It's just like, I don't get it. And it's okay. It's okay not to understand. It's okay not to, fully be aware of everything that comes with that. But take the time to unpack. Take the time to journey with them. And a lot of these conversations need to be had before marriage, so that you at least have an idea of what you're dealing with and what, I don't want to say getting yourself into, but yes, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. How deep are the wounds? How deep is the trauma? At what level of healing is your spouse? So you know that you are equipped and God has graced you to handle whatever it may be. So if you go in blindly, unaware of, the backstory and what this person came from, when you go in unaware and that shock factor comes in, you're automatically going to feel cheated. It doesn't matter how gracious you are as a person, you're going to feel cheated because you're going to feel as if, this isn't fair that this pops up. It isn't fair that I have to deal with this now and I didn't know about this before. So, okay, so let me leave that for week 3. But yeah, it's really important to have conversations about background, about trauma, about things of that nature. Because in a lot of ways, they help you to understand why even giving criticism in a particular way may be a trigger for some people. You know, if they grew up in a household that was critical, then you may need to use kid gloves when you're handling something of that nature, and you may need to just be patient as they learn that you still love them even when they're not performing well or doing things the way that you would like. And so being aware of those things help you to respect and helps you to honor and helps you to appreciate in a way that's real, in a way that's powerful, in a way that is able to transform your husband's heart and your husband's mind just by the way that you treat him. Okay? Also, we need to respect our husband's boundaries and his need for autonomy. Allow him the space to do things he enjoys. Use that time to enjoy an activity of your own. If he's doing something, go and find something to do, occupy yourself. It's going to be okay. You'll be back, you know, unless it's gotten to the point where, you know, he's spending 8 hours off doing something and you're not seeing him, and then a conversation needs to be had. But if he's taking an hour out of the day to do something, to read a book or watch a video, my husband likes tech videos, so I'm almost certain that at least an hour out of the day he's going to be watching tech videos on some new equipment, some new software that came out. So allow him the hour that he needs to spend time with that thing he enjoys, and be aware of the things that make you happy. Be aware of the things that make you happy and excited outside of him, so that you can honor his time effectively without feeling as if you're being neglected. This one is for mothers. Do not expect your husband to father in the same way that you mother. Discuss disagreements in a respectful manner away from the children and without judgment. So, as mothers, you want your children to never experience any level of pain or discomfort, which is ridiculous. I know, but that's your desire for them. Like, I don't want them to be uncomfortable. I don't want them to be hurt in any way whatsoever. And so a lot of times when a father steps in and he begins to discipline, your knee-jerk reaction is no, when it's necessary. You know, God chastises the children that he loves. And so in order to teach them respect, they need to know the limitations and the boundaries that are set in place, and they need to learn to honor them. And so allow your husband to be the father that he is. Allow him to be the husband that, you know, is able to discipline them and just speak to them and let them know, listen, you're not going to do this. My children hear my husband's voice and they like stand at attention. And I'm like, that does not work. I thought I had it, you know, the mommy eye, the look. Okay, the look pales in comparison to the voice. He just calls their name and they like stand at attention, they drop everything, and it's like automatically, okay, daddy just spoke. I need to stop whatever I'm doing because this is not it. And so I have to allow him that space to be a father without interference, without feeling as if, you know, my children are going to be traumatized because their daddy said no, and recognize that it's okay. And he's not going to father them in the same way that your mother. He's not going to even treat them the same way. I think that's what we expect. We expect a mommy assistant rather than a father. His approach to parenthood is going to be totally different. And if you guys have disagreements on, you know, how you're raising them and what that looks like, take that into a discussion between the two of you away from the children. One thing I highly advise against: do not openly disrespect your child in the front of their father. I mean, do not openly disrespect your husband in the front of your children. So be aware of how you're relaying the information or your disagreement in that area. We're on our last point. So The last point, when it comes to respect, you do not have to agree on everything. Respect his right on a different opinion in the same way you expect him to respect yours. So respect does not mean that we give up having differing opinions. But being able to respect each other, even when we disagree, is important because we won't agree on everything. No two people agree on every single thing. You guys are going to see things differently, and that's absolutely okay. So at the end of it all, be sure that you're honoring the person that your husband is. Be sure that you're honoring his needs and the things that are required in order for him to be a whole person. And in doing so, you're going to reap the reward that comes with giving honor, because that honor is going to be extended to you. And we can look to God as the source and as the mediator in our marriages. So one of the things I do that helps me to maintain the respect and the honor in my marriage is, before I have a complaint, I filter it. So I go, before I go to him, I say, Father, I'm feeling this way. Is this a legitimate need? Is this something that I need to address with my husband, or is this me? And so once I filter it and I get feedback from Holy Spirit, I can now express that in a way that's not harmful to my husband. Because a lot of times what's really harming our marriages are our knee-jerk reactions. You say something to me and you don't, and we're harming a relationship that we want to build. And we're doing a disservice to our marriage, to ourselves, and to our spouse. So go in peace, love one another, love each other well, love each other a lot. Thank you for my time this morning, Zami. I hope you guys got something from this, and I'll see you guys later.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you next week.